Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back, everyone. I suggest that you hang with us for a little bit because we're going to talk about the power of suggestion, which is connected to hypnotherapy, which can radically change your life. Stop those limiting beliefs, or even stop you from smoking or eating, many different things, so many different things that hypnotherapy can support. And it starts with the power of suggestion. He's the man behind the Unconscious Edge, and it's so great to have him back with us. Dennis Marciniak is on the program. How are you doing today?
I'm great, Steve. I'm looking forward to a lively conversation.
Yes, there's so much to dig into. We've learned a lot so far. We're going to go back to some of the basics of what this thing, suggestion, is. And I just want to share with everybody that you're a certified hypnotherapist, also NLP, EFT, different modalities, somewhat similar to, if I may say, hypnotherapy. But is the baseline here for the magic, the secret sauce, if you will, for making hypnotherapy work for somebody, it's the power of suggestion?
Yes, very definitely so. And it's interesting because as kind of a background or a base for creating that power of suggestion, there needs to be a couple of things in place. I mean, one is you have to establish, we use the word authority. Normally, if someone is on a bus with me and they suggest that I switch seats, I may or may not, take their suggestion, depending on who they are. If it's an older woman that's, standing and I want to give her my seat, I'll take that suggestion. So if you go into a courtroom, the judge is in black robes and he's sitting in an elevated position, and just by virtue of his position and just the physical setting, he's the established authority in that particular venue. If I'm going to see someone for hypnosis, I have to build rapport with them to get them to a point where they're trusting me, they're looking at me as someone who has some authority, has some ability to help them use suggestion for the betterment of their own personal situation. So once that rapport and that authority is established, and basically I have permission from them to work with them in such a fashion, well then suggestions coming that we've actually both created by virtue of our discussion, those suggestions will have more impact on a person than if it's just something I pull out of my head and kind of put on them. So that's number one.
Isn't it true that anything you suggest, if it's not in alignment with what they want or who they are, it's not going to stick. It's not like you can suggest anything. Exactly.
Absolutely. It's as if the unconscious mind closed the door and is not open to receive any of your foo-foo.
So question on that. Let's say that somebody is on board. I found this guy, Dennis. He's amazing. Hypnotherapist. He's helped so many people. He's studied this for years. This is what he does. This is his purpose. So I'm good. I'm going to see Dennis. And I have a goal. And under hypnosis, some suggestions are made to achieve that goal, but it's not sticking. Maybe it's not resonating. Why would that be? Even though I think I'm on board for it, yes, I want to stop smoking, whatever. I get a couple of sessions in and nothing really has changed. What do you think's going on there?
Well, there could be a couple of different things. And in the pre-talk, the conversation that we have before we actually set up a hypnosis session, it's partly my responsibility to understand or get a feel for how this person receives suggestions. There are direct suggestions. Some people receive suggestions better more directly. Some people receive suggestions better in an implied way. It's almost kind of like, a side door or I guess even a back door. So there are about 20% of the population, and again, this is just an estimation based on hypnotherapists over years of looking at the whole process. Of about 20% of the population are very highly suggestible. We call them somnambulistic, and generally there's a correlation between people who walk or talk in their sleep and are also very highly suggestible. So like if you go to a hypnosis show, for example, what the hypnotist is attempting to do, and he has staff members in the audience, who are watching people as they enter the auditorium. They may have some different eye fixation things going on where you have a spinning wheel on the stage, or so they're there to kind of help the hypnotist guide him to pulling up the people on stage who seem to be easily fascinated with some of the colored lights. And
I'm fascinated by what you're saying right now. What are they looking for? Because initially I thought you were going to say that, they plant people in the audience. I'm sure some do. But if it's legit, what are they looking for in the people that are walking in?
They're looking for people who are, in a sense, almost going into hypnosis on their own because they're fascinated with the colored lights or the moving objects and so forth. Then when the hypnotist gets people on stage, he starts to interact. He may be, some people pull up more than others, but let's just, for example, say someone pulls up 20 people on stage, and then he starts interacting with them. He might even go down the line and talk with them briefly individually and so forth. But you'll notice that he sends probably 10 of those people back to the audience because he's selected the people who are more suggestible, more easily hypnotized, and because it's a show, it's for entertainment, and he's going to have some fun with it. He's not going to ask people to do anything that's ethically against their ethics. But some people like to be the center of attention.
Sure.
and so they'll easily quack like a duck or whatever. So there's that process. So if I'm as a hypnotherapist, I'm not doing a show. I'm not there to entertain someone or make. I'm not that he wants to make fun of people, but people enjoy sometimes making fun of themselves.
Sure.
So, but with a hypnotherapist client, it's still for me to ascertain how best I can work with that person, how I can get them into a deeply relaxed state so that they're more open to suggestion. The hypnosis, after all, is an overload of the conscious mind. If you overload the conscious mind, it's as if it kind of just says tilt and then you just release into the unconscious mind. You're more receptive to suggestion in that particular state.
Is that what's going on? You're overloading, so to speak, the conscious mind, and that's kind of opening the door to, it's like the overflow to the subconscious or the unconscious?
Absolutely. Someone who's a little irritated, they got stuck in traffic or whatever, or maybe they're a little tired. Those states actually put you in a place where you're more easily overloaded and can go into hypnosis. It's like if someone's asking you for directions and you start giving directions very quickly, very fast. You're a fast talker, like on Seinfeld. It's like, oh, stop! I can't absorb the information fast enough. You're overloading my conscious mind. I mean, at that point, if someone had snapped their fingers and said deep sleep, you probably could easily go into hypnosis, because you're trying to keep up to the speed that the conscious mind can't absorb that quickly.
I'm learning so much here, and I feel that having had hypnotherapy a number of times, that I'm a little ahead of the curve. I study this. I find it fascinating. This is so interesting, even in the stage show of how they do it. But the principles are the same in terms of what you do. And it's almost as if that person that, stuck in traffic and all that, it's almost as if they're overwhelmed. And that kind of, it's almost like like a hard drive where all the information is stored here, but if you have extra information, you have a other partition on your hard drive where we're going to put that stuff over there. We've now accessed that area. It's almost, in a way, it seems the same, Dennis, when you're talking with somebody before you do a session, you're almost like the stage hypnotist, where you're assessing them. You're kind of getting a read on them. You probably have done this so many times that you can even look at them and what they're looking at in that session and kind of get a read on them, whether they're going to be open to this or whether they're not. Have you ever gotten surprised where you read somebody and you thought, I don't know if it's going to take, but then it does, or vice versa?
Yeah, for sure. Sometimes you'll try a certain approach, maybe even a certain method for getting them into hypnosis, and it's just not quite happening. So you're thinking on your feet and just shifting and trying another approach. And there were times when I had someone come, and it's almost like they dare you to hypnotize them, and that's not the whole point of the process. It's like, I'm not out to prove something, and if you don't want to be helped or worked with, I'm not going to stand on my head to try to try to make you think. But if you're in a place where you're open, that you came for a need, you have a certain willingness, that's half the battle, so to speak. And even in conversation, you're starting the hypnotic process just by the way you suggest things in the conversation. You can even do it negatively. It's like you can say you don't need to feel a certain relaxation that's growing in your body, but you may just become aware that something is making you feel more deeply relaxed. And it's like, you don't need to think of a red cat right now, but you are noticing that your unconscious has more say in the matter than your conscious mind does. So it's just definitely kind of intriguing sometimes, just as to how you find the pathway to the person getting really relaxed and in a place where they're malleable and open and suggestible.
You say relaxed, and you said that a couple of times. Is that a key element where they have to be in the zone where they're chill? There's not a lot of things that they're thinking of, and they can focus on it. Is that why that relaxation step is important?
Yeah, because ultimately they're getting into what we could call, from a brainwave state, an alpha state. There are some discussions amongst hypnotherapists, as to how much you need to emphasize the relaxation part. It's not that you necessarily need to do this long relaxation process where, there are some schools of thought that you go through this lengthy process of getting someone deeply relaxed. But ultimately, whether it's a short process or a fast process, you're in a very comfortable state. And I think the biggest thing that people comment when they get done with the session is, oh God, I feel so good. I feel so relaxed. I don't know if I was hypnotized, but I really feel unwound and comfortable, and it's not till the next days that you start to realize that there's some kind of impact that's gone on.
When you're making that suggestion, what does that sound like? Example, somebody wants to stop smoking, and now they're under hypnosis and it's working. They're connected, with you in that way. Everything's looking like it should. What would you say to them to suggest that they don't smoke?
Well, especially with smoking and also with eating issues, weight issues, there's really like two levels that you're operating on at the same time. One is that you're dealing with their own innate ability, their body's own innate intelligence, and their unconscious's wisdom to be able to find a solution. So the smoking issue, for example, the smoking is not the problem in the unconscious mind. The smoking was the solution. The smoking was the solution to the fact that they experience anxiety, or the fact that they need to feel a certain social connection by hanging out with the other smokers, outside the office. So you're confronting the unconscious mind with its choice of a solution. That it's a temporary solution, and it did its job to a certain extent, except that it has some long-term consequences that are not necessarily so great. So you're on one hand acknowledging the unconscious mind for doing the best that it could do to find a solution for dealing with stress or anxiety or whatever they were dealing with, but then challenging that unconscious mind to be a little bit more creative, because you hadn't taken into consideration these down effects. So I might use even something like this. That you've got two things going on here. You've got the unconscious mind in the left hand has found a solution for your anxiety, but in the right hand, I want to have you visualize or imagine, that the unconscious mind is going to find a solution for your health, for your long-term health, and that somehow we're going to put these two things together. And I'll actually have them hold their hands out and visualize, imagine this is the smoking. Visualize or imagine this is the ultimate solution to your long-term health. And we're going to then put those hands together. And as you're putting those hands together, take a deep breath. Imagine, visualize that a deeper solution is coming to finding a pattern of behavior that's going to be more productive and more conducive to your long-term health and goals and so forth. And then take those hands and put them to your chest. Somehow that just, makes you internalize it a little bit more. That can be one thing on that particular level. On another level, you can talk about taking a deep breath and feeling the beauty of a smoke-free breath, filling your lungs, feeling, or we do like what we call a timeline therapy. Often works very well with smoking, where you picture, visualize, or imagine that it's 1 year from now, and that you've quit smoking and you've been a non-smoker now for over a year. And I want you to just picture, visualize, imagine. How do you feel? You take that deep breath. Your lungs are clear. You don't feel any sense of respiratory problems or issues. Your taste buds are clear. You can better enjoy the dessert that you love and so forth. So you picture, visualize, imagine, in the future, and then what happens is, again, that's breaking a mental pattern a neural connection that that somehow you saw smoking as being such an essential and vital part of your being, really. So now that neural pattern is broken up, and then you have them visualize, that they're coming back from that year and winding it closer to the present. And again, that suggests that you're going to be successful because you see yourself successful in a year. It implies, that you're taking steps to move toward that picture. Wow. The implied suggestion is really more powerful than we understand sometimes, and that can be all a part of the process.
Had no idea that you could do a future timeline. I've had hypnotherapy done where we've done a timeline regression.
Right.
And at that time, it was looking at 5 negative emotions and went back to the first time you ever felt sadness. You got to, think back, use your memory. You were a kid, maybe something happened. First time you felt anxiety, all of that. I didn't know you could do the future, which is super cool because your mind is so visual. You're seeing the future. You're seeing a healthier you. You're seeing a non-smoker. When you are working with somebody, let's say even smoking, and yes, we identified, you did, that somebody's smoking for a reason. It's not typically, I just love the taste of cigarettes. No, there's a reason for it. Do you identify under hypnosis what the reason is? And is that even important to identify?
It's important if it's important to the person you're working with.
Okay.
If that is very strongly on their mind, they feel the need to understand or recognize how they got where they got. But often I find people know how they got there. That often, again, it started with, a bunch of kids hanging out in the woods, and someone brought stole a couple cigarettes from their father or whatever, and when they were only 10 years old or something, and then it progressed to being with the cool crowd in high school or whatever. So a lot of times people know, and it's important to explore that a little more if it's important in that person's mind, but otherwise it's not necessary.
Well, I guess that's a good thing too, because if somebody is maybe very personal, doesn't want to share a lot, I just want to stop smoking. It doesn't need to be revealed unless maybe they wanted to.
Right.
Fascinating. We dug deep today. This is actually really cool. Learning how this all works and right back to the power of suggestion. The beauty of this is you can do it anywhere for anyone virtually. I've never had a hypnotherapy session in person. Never. and that was fine. Guess what? I was relaxed. I was in a very comfortable setting, which is what we're talking about here. Dennis, how do we find you?
My website is unconsciousedge.com, and my phone numbers are there, and the process always starts with a phone call, conversation to explore and discuss what you want to work on. And again, as you mentioned, most of the sessions these days are through Zoom, but I do have a private office and see people in person too. And
you're in California, right?
I am in Los Angeles and the San Fernando Valley area.
Gotcha. I also want to throw out too, if you have a question for Dennis, anything, you can be anonymous if you want to do it. instantfeedbacksteve@gmail.com. instantfeedbacksteve@gmail.com. Love to hear what you're thinking. I know this is a lot of new territory, sometimes a little uneasy for people to grasp it and understand that we're not trying to control your mind. We're literally handing the key to your mind so that you can work on it with Dennis. Thanks so much for today. Learned a lot. This is fantastic. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, Steve.
All right. We'll catch up soon. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Jason Derulo. I love that music connects to people all over the country. But unfortunately, so does something else. Childhood hunger. 15 million kids struggle with hunger right here in America. And yet, every year, billions of pounds of surplus food in the U.S. go to waste instead of going to the children in need. Feeding America is working to change this. The Feeding America nationwide network of food banks rescues this surplus of food to help provide meals to families in virtually every community in the United States, including yours. But they just can't do this alone. Join me in the fight against hunger in America. For more information on what you can do to get involved, visit feedingamerica.org. That's feedingamerica.org. Together we can solve hunger. Together, we're Feeding America. A message from Feeding America and the Ad Council.